we're finally gonna have our free speech rights, re-implemented now that one incredibly wealthy man, in fact, the most wealthy man on the planet, will be the sole owner of Twitter. That's what people genuinely think. And yes, turns out that Elon Musk has struck a deal with the board over at Twitter, allowing him to purchase the company and take it from being a publicly traded company to a private one. Now, under the terms of the deal, shareholders will receive $54.20 in cash for each share of Twitter stock they own, matching Musk's original offer and making a 38% premium over the stock price the day before Musk revealed his stake in the company. Also, the deal, which was unanimously approved by Twitter's board, is expected to close this year. It comes after Musk revealed last week he had lined up $46.5 billion in financing to acquire the company, an apparent turning point that forced Twitter's board to seriously consider the deal. Now, Musk has come out with some statements about what he plans to do with Twitter, and to be honest, some of it sounds pretty good, but you should be skeptical because anyone who's under the assumption that the richest man on the planet being the sole owner of a company means that it's gonna be a great, wonderful, free, open forum, you might get duped in the future. But here's what he says. In his statement Monday, Musk said he wants to make Twitter better than ever by enhancing the product with new features, including the algorithms open source to increase trust, or making the algorithms open source to increase trust, defeating the spam bots, which sounds really good, and authenticating all humans, which honestly, that also sounds very good. Separately, he said in a tweet Monday that he hopes even my worst critics remain on Twitter because that is what free speech means. So look, my whole take on the free speech thing is I'm not buying it, especially when we're dealing with book burnings at school districts across the country, where books that haven't even been assigned to students are being banned from libraries across the country. It's just fascinating that all the attention for the right wing, including people like Elon Musk, is I want free speech on Twitter. I mean, it's the public square. If you really think it's the public square, then make it a public utility. Don't put it under the control of one individual, particularly the richest man on the planet. It might seem like he has other, priorities in mind, but we'll see how this plays out. I don't really have high hopes.
Okay, let me tackle this from a business perspective first and then get to the content. So he got 46.5 billion in financing, but he only is around 44 billion to buy it only. 38% premium on the current price is literally irresistible. Twitter was put in a situation where they almost legally had to sell, because if they didn't sell, then they would face tons and tons of lawsuits, because that's your fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit. And if somebody offers you 38% more than the shares are worth, then you pretty much have to sell if you're a public corporation. So this was nearly inevitable once he decided to buy it. I have to confess, I don't want to encourage them at all, but I was kind of surprised that the mega rich like Musk and Bezos, etc., haven't bought more media. So Bezos bought Washington Post. They haven't, you haven't seen a lot of stories come out about how they're doing pro Bezos or Amazon stories. But what you don't see is the omissions. Is there a lot of tough stories against Amazon on Washington Post? I haven't seen them, right? Is there skepticism when Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna pushed for $15 minimum wage at Amazon? Yes, deep skepticism. But to be fair, the Washington Post was always conservative economically, right? So, but when in the case of Elon Musk, so he can buy almost anything. So he goes and buys this. Now he could do almost anything with it, especially because he's taking it private. There's real legitimate business reasons to take it private. If you're gonna clean out all the bots, for example, the number of users you have is going to plummet. If you were public, the stock market would punish you deeply for that, because they like the lying and the ruse.
They like the inflated numbers.
The inflated numbers, yeah.
That's all it is.
You got to hit the 15% every year. Every year you got to hit the 15%. Give me more inflated numbers. I don't care that they're fake. There are obviously a giant number of fake accounts on Twitter, the most of anywhere, right? So in order to clean it up, you almost have to take it private. But once you take it private, well, then almost no one can see what you're doing. He says there's going to be transparency, But when a corporation is private, there's usually, well, not usually, almost always, less transparency. So do you know that he won't rig the algorithms in favor of the right wing or in favor of people that he supports or in favor of crypto boys, right? And he does a lot of crypto stuff on not only the buying and selling, but he does a lot of what looks like manipulation. I'm not saying
it is
that
manipulation.
Yeah.
He's manipulating cryptocurrency through his tweets.
Through
Happens
his
all the
tweets,
time.
let alone what appear to be bots and spams on his side, bots and trolls on his side. Okay, but I don't know if he. So that has not been legally adjudicated. That's why I say I don't. You can't be positive. So now, if he buys it and he actually does what he says in that tweet, and he authenticates everyone on Twitter to be human beings, and he gets rid of the spam bots, that would be awesome. We're here for it, right? But the right wing does not have a good track record on hypocrisy or lying, right? So now people say, "Oh, Elon Musk." I saw this all day today. He's not necessarily right wing. Really? Okay. Look, just a couple of years ago, Ben and I were joking around on one of our shows, Old School, and we did a poll: Elon Musk, yes or no? So just a couple of years ago, it was unclear. It was still a conversation, a debate, right? Since then, the last 2-3 years, has he ever said one left-wing thing? Has he ever pissed off the right wing in any way, shape, or form? I've seen him say dozens, maybe hundreds of right-wing stuff. So, and in our experience, the right wing is filled with liars. So you put out a statement like that, if you're a right-winger, it means you're gonna do the exact opposite. You're gonna load up Twitter with bots, and they're all going to be for your own financial benefit. You're gonna manipulate everything in the world, and then say, "Oh, nobody can see it. Oh, trust me, I'm so good because since I'm rich, that must mean I'm right." And so the track record does not give you a lot of confidence that what he's saying is true. But if it is true, that part would be great.
I also think, making vague statements about the importance of freedom of speech is empty and doesn't really persuade me that you're on the side of free speech when there are so many brazen Republicans across the country that are, as we're speaking, literally, like they are violating constitutional rights because we're talking about the government violating constitutional rights. I mean, Ron DeSantis retaliating against Disney for speaking out against the so-called "Don't Say Gay" bill in Florida. Isn't it Disney's right to speak against legislation they don't like? I mean, first of all, I thought corporations were people who have protected free speech, right?
Yeah.
And if that's what the standard is, based on the Supreme Court's ruling on that issue, does Ron DeSantis, as a member of the government and the state legislature in Florida, have the right to basically punish someone or punish a company over its free speech?
So look, the right wing loves cancel culture.
They love it.
They love it. They do it all the time. Oh, you say something against Israel, we'll cancel all your contracts, etc. You do a protest of an oil pipeline, we'll pass a law saying people can run you over in the streets and murder you. They love cancel culture, right? But they're also massive hypocrites. Almost every social media platform started by the right wing in the last 5 years has said, "Oh, this is about freedom of speech." And the first thing they do is they ban anyone criticizing them. True Social, Trump's platform, same exact thing. They're like, "You're not allowed to criticize Trump on here." What happened to free speech? Trump was president of the United States. He was the government official. Criticizing the government is the very, very, very essence of the First Amendment. They're like, "Oh, no. We meant you can't cancel our freedom of speech, but we're gonna cancel your freedom of speech left and right." And then they said, "Oh, you can't criticize this, you can't criticize that."
Right.
They've become cancel factories, all those right-wing social media platforms.
And Elon Musk hasn't spoken out against any of that.
None,
he
zero.
seems to be totally fine with it. So this whole free speech narrative, I'm not buying it. And the only the only place where I've seen him be very specific is Twitter banned Donald Trump. Free speech violation. Well, look, you're taking a publicly traded company, you're now making it private under your leadership, under your ownership. And there's literally nothing standing in the way of you violating people's free speech on Twitter because there's no constitutional protection against it. If people are serious, okay, if they're not just saying it and they're genuinely serious that they see Twitter as the public square where free speech should be valued and protected, the only way to ensure that our constitutional rights of free speech are applied to Twitter is if it is if it's a public utility and it's treated as such, not a private corporation. But that's not what's gonna happen here. Again, it's gonna be under the control of one individual, the richest individual. And if anyone thinks that that leads to more freedom, I have a bridge to sell you. I have many bridges to sell you. Please give me your money.
Yeah, and last two things here. So, I'm a free speech absolutist. They love to say that, right? Okay, but wait, even if you take out the hypocrisy, which you shouldn't because they never mean it, right? But let's talk about what that means. So there's two things that are of concern. No real person on the left thinks you should ban speech because we don't like it, or it's, by the way, let me retract that. Some do, but we're definitely not in that camp, okay? And I think those people are totally extreme, right? No, there's only two standards. One is don't call for violence, and two, if you're a public figure, if it's a lie that could get other people in danger, et cetera, like what Trump did, encouraging the riot on January 6th, et cetera. Now, you can even have arguments around the edges on that for sure, okay? Now, is he's saying, no, I don't care about those two categories, but hold on, if you say that, what if somebody like Trump said, hey, you know what? The Jews are going to attack your children tomorrow and they're going to drink their blood. Now that's blood libel. It's not like people haven't said it before. They've said it for centuries. And it's not like QAnon doesn't say that powerful people in the country are going to attack your children and drink their blood. They literally say that, right? So is he not going to ban that? Is that going to be okay to do on Twitter now? The worst, most odious lies you've ever seen in your life? And then the second one is the one, I tell you about Rebellion PAC all the time. The person who runs it is Brianna Wu. She was actually one of the main victims of Gamergate. So she was actually quoted in a lot of the stories today. And she makes a terrific point. She's like, so are they going to allow rape threats again on Twitter?
Oh, for sure. I mean, first of all, they barely even tried to get rid of the rape threats to begin with. But do you think that any of that is gonna be moderated under Elon Musk's leadership? Of course not. They don't care about that. They never have, they never will. But the thing that I wanna just really point out here is that there are two different groups of people in this country. There are people who are actually harmed by that kind of speech, by those kinds of threats, because they don't have the resources to protect themselves. They can't afford private security. They can't, afford the protection necessary to protect, like the Posner family, who was targeted by Alex Jones and his lies about Sandy Hook. I mean, they had to move 7 different times. And they're lucky that they had the resources to move to escape the threats that they were dealing with. Elon Musk doesn't have to worry about his life being in danger if you have QAnon conspiracy theorists throwing all sorts of defamation and libel in his direction. He's good, he's rich, he's got his protection. It's really the people who are usually harmed by all of these threats and all of this so-called speech that are probably gonna suffer the consequences of that.
Yeah, you threaten a random woman or a female journalist on Twitter, Elon Musk is definitely going to let that stand. That's what he means by free speech absolutist. If you threaten Elon Musk, is he gonna let that stand? If instead of saying, hey, let's go rape a female journalist, you said, let's go rape Elon Musk. Now, God, don't say that. I don't want anybody saying that. And then you gave his home address. This is things that right wing did on a regular basis. That's why social media started passing rules in the first place. Hey, you're not allowed to dox, you're not allowed to threaten violence like that. Is Elon Musk gonna be like, oh yeah, threaten my family, I don't mind. Yeah, here's my address, I don't mind. I'm a free speech absolutist. 0% chance he's gonna allow that. And then you're gonna have an uneven field where he says, you can do this to those guys, but you can't do it to us. But hey, I would be super happy if he proved all of that wrong and actually had balanced rules and showed us, got rid of anonymity, which allows people to put their hood on before they make comments, and cleaned up Twitter. I'm super happy to come back on. Look, I can prove it, Tesla, they do electric cars. I love that they do electric cars. So you give me a good product and I'll tell you, hey, he did it, right? But right now, I wouldn't believe a word he's saying. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.